Black Christmas 1974, 50 years of a classic film that we have all forgotten. This is, I guess, a cult film. It's a slasher film in description, but I find it more like a psychological thriller movie. It kind of predates Halloween and the explosion of true slasher horror and that sort of like boogeyman cutting down teens. This is the precursor to that. Very inspirational, I believe, for Halloween and other films. One of the interesting elements of this is directed and produced by Bob Clark, who also brought us, that's right, A Christmas Story. You can see from the text and the graphic, it kind of feels like it could be in the same universe, even though it is obviously a completely different genre and a completely different take. Was, where it came from. Hey, the killer is actually inside the house. The phone rings and all of that stuff. It actually starts here. That's right. The film centers around a sorority house and some different girls, and some's going to go away. One's just totally obnoxious, by the way. Margot Kidder is fantastic in this movie, even though her role is sort of like medium size. She's not the star, but she has a lot of significant scenes. But that idea the phone is ringing, and the big twist, of course, is that he's in the attic. The audience gets to know all the way through, but the characters are not finding out until many times it's tragic. All right, as I said, Margot Kidder is there on the left. Olivia Hussey is the main character in this. She's really famous for being the lead actress in the famous Romeo and Juliet film adaptation from 1968, a film that we were actually shown in schools, which was at the time like shocking because it was pretty intense. Olivia Hussey is the lead. Jess. This is a lot about knowing something is going wrong, figuring out the girls that are missing, where are they, what's going on. But she is also caught up in a massive crisis in a relationship with someone. And the film really has no problem shying away from that. So before I get into spoilers, I just want to tell you that this is actually a very great, suspenseful twist and turn, moves around. You're always sort of like, frustrated with the police, you're frustrated with other characters, like no one thought to go look or go do this or go do that, and it's just how the story plays out. John Saxon is also in this as the lieutenant. I've always kind of jokingly thought to myself, because he also plays the lieutenant in The Nightmare on Elm Street. I thought, wow, I wonder if he failed so miserably in this movie and he left, he goes off and he's like something, and then goes back into police work, and then could be connected in the old Saxon verse. But that's Pop's brain. I'm a little weird. I have these random thoughts. So overall, let me tell you what, this is a really good time and a very underrated film. Not a lot of people even know about this. Sadly, there's been remakes and reboot and other movies that have similar or the same name. So this really good version kind of falls through the cracks if people are like click the wrong one, or they Google, they see all these other pictures and characters and things. So, anyways, that's my general take on it. All right, I'm going to head into spoilers a little bit because the girl that leaves doesn't show up. And we in the audience knows exactly what happens when her dad is there looking for her, going, listen, she's late. She's not normally late. Where could she be? And what Bob Clark does really well here is he gives the audience a reminder of where she is. Every time it kind of comes up in a conversation or there's a movement in action, they cut to her with the bag still on her face. The dead body is in the attic, and it's actually by a window. Like, it's so insane that the audience is like screaming at the camera, the screen, whatever, because you should know, right? And this is kind of one of those horror movie tropes that kind of gets traction, where the director and the creators are playing with you in the audience. And again, it goes back to this film. As I said, John Saxon is in this. If there's any other sort of like twists or turns and things, it really doesn't center too much around the police. They're kind of like mocked and made fun of as being incompetent. There's like this really like boob of an officer. He's the first line of contact with the girls and their family, and they turn it. Margot Kidder's character turns it into a fellatio gag, and they're always teasing the guy. The cops are always late figuring things out. It's kind of the weaker element of the movie because it's not serious. There's like this big disconnect between what's serious and what is not serious. Jess is also dealing, like I said, about that relationship crisis. And this is a massive pro life abortion film conversation. Like, she's pregnant, she's not going to keep the baby. The boyfriend finds out, he comes unglued and wants to keep the baby, wants to marry her, whatever. So this conversation and this, you can really feel the tension between the two of them. The actor is the guy that plays David in 2001. It is escaping me. His name is Kier Kier Delua. Anyway, yeah, it's right there. I just can't for some reason remember, but he's best known for playing David in 2001. And he's this guy who's an expert pianist, but she tells him the day of this massive recital testing type thing. So he bombs, he tear it again. It's a weird little side trope that kind of takes away from the tension of the horror movie. Yet at the same time, it's the kind of commentary or that would be seen as like political agenda now, but it also is giving you layers of the reality of what these characters are actually going through in their real life, why they would be distracted, why different characters would be in different scenes. Then obviously how her and Peter come to an end near the film's climax. Here, Peter and Jess are discussing all this, what they're going to do. And I will say again, for its time, 50 years ago, this big decision that so many people have put themselves into, the life choices that you're making with a college girl and this young man doesn't really have a career yet. The sexual freedom liberty issue had been very fresh in the minds of everyone because Roe v. Wade was dated in 1973. The film comes out in 74. So this is literally this massive topic on everyone's mind. Bob Clark finds a way to integrate it in the story that feels in a believable way, but also not like he's hammering you over the head with what he thinks you should do. And again, things get so crazy at the end of the movie. It ends so badly for Peter at the hands of Jess. The guilt that she would have, the trauma that she would have kind of carries on. And then it lends itself to a little final cutaway where you hear Billy, the person who's actually on the other end of the phone call, breathing. He's still out there. He's still living, and nothing's changed. The fact that it lends itself to such an open ending, I think, is just fantastic. So, Black Christmas, have you seen it? What do you think about it? I find that this is a great film. It's a great way to also go back to the 70s when they're tracing the call. You literally cut to a guy at these phone banks running around like a madman trying to figure out where the phone is. It is so surreal to think that that's where we've come from, where now we all have mobile computer technology in all of our pockets in our houses and everything on scale that it's just nuts. But the idea that Billy is really never on screen, he's sort of like shadows that are played. Even the director, I think, plays a couple shadows, a couple of moments. The voices on the phone, the graphic nature, the weird voices, everything about it lends you into your mind starts racing of does the killer have schizophrenia? What had happened to him? But you don't want to have anything explained to you in a way because it stays creepier. And the fact that he delivers that element of suspense and thrills is to me fantastic. Solid 8 out of 10 for me. Lean a little higher if this is your type of thing. If you're wanting a little more action, a little more slash, a little more blood and guts, or if you're wanting like nudity and stuff, that's not it. This is not your film. But I think you would understand that this is a film that lent itself to all those films coming along. Anyway, that's my take on it. I really would love to hear more from you guys. This is one that had popped up in conversation on Nadia's stream. I'm going to try to make sure I remember to put a link there to Nadia's show that she did on horror Christmas movies and a holiday horror, I think is what she called it. And I'm like, oh, I have not watched that and literally had not seen this since the 90s. Couldn't believe it was the 50th anniversary. So revved it right up, got to watch in and wanted to share that with you guys. So listen, love to hear from you. Take care, everybody. I am Pops.